There is a book your ancestors were warned not to read. A book whispered about in caves and monasteries, banned from some canons, treasured in others. If you open it tonight, the sky won't look the same. Stars turn into judges. Clouds become witnesses. Angels fall. The Book of Enoch is not comfortable. It is a knife in the soft cloth of ordinary time. And yet, paradoxically, it is also a map of fear, of hope, of a world before the flood when knowledge itself was dangerous. Let's begin in the dust. Second Temple Judea, somewhere between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. The world is occupied. Empires rise and fall like stormfronts. In this atmosphere, Enoch appears, or rather, he returns. In Genesis, Enoch is a lightning flash. He walked with God, then he was not, for God took him, just a sentence. In this apocryphal expansion, the sentence becomes a universe. Enoch is taken up, shown the machinery behind the sky. He learns the names of the winds, the paths of the luminaries, the prisons of the rebellious angels. This isn't Sunday school, it's a cosmology with teeth. The Watchers arrive first, angels stationed to observe the human world, guardians of boundaries. They watch too long. Desire catches like dry grass. In the older layers of one Enoch, 200 Watchers led by Semyaza descend on Mount Hermon. They swear an oath, bound together in mutual ruin. They enter into the daughters of men, and the earth groans. Giants are born, voracious, vast, devouring the labors of humans, then devouring humans themselves. These are not heroes with bright shields. These are Nephilim, the shadow of divine power stolen and misused. Enoch, the taken man, becomes a messenger. He intercedes, then accuses. He's sent to pronounce judgment on the Watchers. You were supposed to be above men, but you became worse than men. The fallen beg him for mercy. They ask him to write a petition to the Most High. He does, but the answer is relentless. The Watchers are bound in caverns. Their offspring are cut down by flood and famine. Their spirits condemned to roam. The earth will be washed. The story bites because it isn't subtle. It's a world that knows what happens when power refuses its limits. Now, a leap in time. The 20th century. A shepherd boy throws a stone into a cave near Qumran and hears pottery break. In the dark, under chalky limestone, he finds scrolls. Among them fragments of Enoch in Aramaic, older than any Greek or Ethiopic copies known before. Almost 2,000 years the desert held its breath, guarding the book that kept watch on the Watchers. Scholars gather. Suddenly, Enoch is not a medieval curiosity or a fringe memory. It's a living document of the religious imagination that shaped Judaism and early Christianity. But Enoch's imagery is older than Enoch's writing. Listen for the crosswinds. To the east, in Mesopotamia, stories of the apkallu, the half-divine sages, tell of heavenly beings who came down to teach civilization, arts, and knowledge. They also hint at corruption and catastrophe. To the west, Greek myths celebrate unions of gods and mortals, birthing demigods. Achilles, Heracles, Perseus, golden at first, then tragic, then punished. Against that tapestry, Enoch threads a stern line. The trespass is not romance, it is desecration. Teaching forbidden crafts, weaponry, sorcery, cosmetics becomes an act of violence against creation itself. A mythic indictment of technology without conscience, beauty without ethics, knowledge without humility. How did communities receive this voice? In Judean texts, Enoch belongs to a broader apocalyptic mood. The world is unjust, but there is a higher court. In the New Testament, the tiny book of Jude quotes Enoch directly. Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones, signaling how familiar and potent Enoch was for early believers. Church fathers debated. Some admired Enoch, others distrusted it, fearing the door it opened to speculation. By the 4th century, Enoch is largely sidelined in Greek and Latin churches, yet in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, 1st Enoch remains canon, copied by hand in Ge'ez, read aloud, prayed over. In Ethiopian monasteries, Enoch's visions are not forbidden at all, they are bred. Mystics weave Enoch into other maps. In later Jewish law, a current flows, Enoch becomes Metatron, the high angel, the scribe of heaven, seated close to the throne. Is this the same Enoch? Traditions differ, overlap, argue with themselves. What matters is the archetypal magnet, a human taken into angelic office, witnessing the architecture of reality. Historians place Enoch alongside other apocalypses, Daniel, 4 Ezra, 2 Baruch, texts that bloom under pressure when empires crush and people need to know that meaning still burns beyond the horizon. Philosophers of religion see Enoch as a theater for questions. What is justice? Who polices the powerful? When is knowledge an offense? And modern scholars, combing the Dead Sea Scrolls, find that Enoch's concerns, calendar disputes, priestly legitimacy, cosmic order, are not just about heaven. They are about who gets to say what time it is, who gets to stand at the altar, who claims the blueprint of the world. So what is Enoch saying to you, here and now? At heart, it's a warning and a promise. The warning, boundaries matter. Not because the cosmos is fragile, but because we are. Quick pause. What part of the Enoch story unsettles you the most? The Watcher's oath, the giant's hunger, or the flood that answers them? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more dark history decoded with care, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the next drop. Return to the undertow beneath the myth. A psychologist might name it the archetype of forbidden knowledge. The apple with teeth marks, the fire stolen from the gods. In Jungian terms, the Watchers are projections of a shadowed intellect, a brilliance without integration. They descend when we bypass the long work of wisdom and grab at power for speed, thrill, or fear. Enoch's flood, then, is the psyche's correction, brutal but cleansing, a reset when the system has spun beyond safety. In cultural terms, giants are the institutions or technologies that we birth and then cannot feed, that begin to feed on us. And then there is the number work inside Enoch, the arithmetic of awe. 7 and 70 ripple through it. There are watchers in ranks, hundreds sealed with oaths. Calendars measured by perfect weeks, solar cycles harmonized to holy days. Enoch tours the heavens like an auditor, counting windows where winds emerge, warehouses of snow and hail. He notes the gates where the sun rises in winter, shifts in spring, crowns in summer. This is not superstition. It's symmetry, a hunger for the universe to add up. When it doesn't, when priests disagree about what day is truly sacred, you get schism, anger, and the feeling that if the calendar is wrong, the world is wrong. The flood in Enoch isn't only water, it's a moral solvent. It scours the residue of a union that shouldn't have happened, of crafts taught for vanity and blood. It's the oldest refrain in human myth: reset, rinse, begin again. From Utnapishtim's ark in the Epic of Gilgamesh, to Deucalion's boat in Greek tales, to the ship of Manu in India, the flood flows across cultures like a scar that everyone remembers in their own language. Enoch ties that scar to the Watcher's fall, making the flood not an angry whim, but a consequence. Actions have tides. What about the modern echoes? Enoch's fingerprints appear everywhere once you start looking. In apocalyptic films, where skies crack and trumpets announce judgment, you hear Enoch's cadence. In comics and games, watchers loom with many eyes. Celestial bureaucrats with secret rules. Metal bands chant the names of fallen angels. Anime draws cold, geometric heavens where rogue seraphs haunt alleys of neon. Even tattoos, winged eyes, laddered constellations, a man swallowed by light, carry Enoch's grammar under the skin. And in conspiracy forums, the book is often dragged into labyrinths of half-truth. That's the paradox of a forbidden text. People will read it incorrectly, passionately, sometimes dangerously, which is why context is mercy. Under a clear lens, Enoch is not a handbook for domination. It is not coded instruction for summoning. It is a courtroom drama with cosmic lighting. It says, be careful what you vow together. Be careful what you teach. Be careful which appetites you feed with your brilliance. The Watchers aren't villains because they knew things. They are villains because they broke trust with the world, weaponized wonder, made beauty into a blade. The giants are not evil because they are large. They are evil because they only devour. Then there is Enoch himself. Imagine the voice of a man who measured the heavens returning to earth. He has seen frost stored like treasure. He has walked beside the river of fire that bends around the throne. He has heard the righteous dead cry out for justice, and the stars respond. He returns with sentences heavy as iron. There is a calendar clean as a bell. There are prisons of darkness. There is a future where the meek are not trampled. He does not sell you a spell. He hands you a verdict and asks if you will live as though it's true. Hold that up to our century. We teach crafts that reshape reality. Gene editing, surveillance webs, machine learning that guesses our wants before we name them. Knowledge is not the problem. But Enoch stares through time and asks, why are you teaching it? To heal or to rule? To feed the many or to fatten the giants you cannot control? When power crosses the wrong boundary, cleanup comes. And cleanup is never gentle. Floods are not always water. Sometimes they are market collapses, algorithmic panics, systems we trust blinking off in the dark. Still, Enoch is more than a warning. It holds a strange tenderness for the measured world, the sun's patient arc, the dignity of appointed times, the rest of the land, the right use of craft. If the Watchers corrupted cosmetics into deceit, Enoch preserves beauty as an honest mirror. If they bent metallurgy into war, Enoch remembers iron as plowshare. Wisdom is not refusal. It is timing, humility, and care. So what do you do with a forbidden book? You read it like a traveler, not a conqueror. You learn its languages, Judean valleys, Jayez manuscripts, Aramaic fragments in jars. You watch it argue with other texts and refuse to flatten it into one useful slogan. You also pay attention to how it makes you feel. Disquiet is not your enemy here. Awe that thickens your throat is not manipulation. The ancient world was not dumber than us. It was differently brave. It wrote its fears in thunder, its questions in stars. Tonight, when you step outside, look up. Imagine the sky as Enoch saw it. A cathedral of moving gates, a calendar etched in flame. Somewhere, 200 watchers once swore an oath that broke the world. Somewhere a man walked into the machinery of heaven and came back speaking like a judge. Whether you believe in angels or only in the stories we craft to measure our dangers, the Book of Enoch is a mirror. It shows how easily knowledge can tilt, how quickly appetite can grow giant, how necessary it is to bind ourselves to better oaths. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the hum of its last promise. A world mended, a time kept in rhythm, a justice that doesn't need to shout. You don't need to ban a book like that. You need to understand why it keeps surviving. The desert kept Enoch safe for 2,000 years. Maybe because the desert knows what floods can do. Maybe because the desert, like Enoch, is honest. It doesn't pretend it can feed giants forever. Read Enoch not to summon anything, but to remember the difference between teaching and tempting, between elevation and fall. Read it to test your own vows. Read it to measure the sky you walk under every day, unaware, until a forbidden book teaches you how to look.